Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that most people are too afraid to talk about: the hidden truths behind marriage and why married women are often the easiest prey. Marriage is supposed to be built on love, trust, and lifelong commitment. But what if I told you that beneath the surface many marriages are held together by obligation, financial security, or sheer fear of change? What if the person who once seemed devoted and loyal secretly craves something more? Something thrilling, risky, and outside the bounds of her vows? The truth is that human behavior doesn't always align with our idealistic notions about relationships. A woman may publicly declare love for her husband while privately seeking excitement elsewhere. And here's the uncomfortable reality: for the right kind of man, married women can be surprisingly easy to attract. But why? In this video, we're going to break down the psychology behind this phenomenon, uncover the patterns of infidelity, and expose the emotional risks that men often overlook. If you think marriage guarantees loyalty, you must watch this until the end, because what you don't know can hurt you. Let's get started. 1. The hidden shift in a married woman's mindset. Before marriage, a woman is highly selective, conscious of her worth, and deliberate in presenting herself to men. She moves with intention, holding back just enough to create intrigue and ensuring that any man interested in her makes the necessary effort. She doesn't give her attention freely. She makes men work for it. This isn't an accident, it's a strategy, whether she realizes it or not. She knows that by maintaining an air of exclusivity, she attracts a man who is reliable, committed, and willing to invest in her emotionally and financially. She understands that the chase makes her more desirable and uses this to her advantage. But once she is married, the entire dynamic shifts. She has achieved her primary goal. She has secured a man who provides stability, financial security, and social validation. The urgency to prove her value diminishes because, in her mind, the battle has already been won. The role she once played, the woman who was difficult to attain, who made a man feel like he had to earn her love, is no longer necessary. She no longer needs to engage in the same level of selective behavior because she already has what she is seeking. And with that, something changes. The thrill of being pursued fades, and with it, the excitement that once fueled the relationship. This shift is not always immediate, but it is inevitable. When a woman no longer feels the need to keep a man's attention, she stops trying. She may become less affectionate, less eager to impress, or even indifferent to the little things that once mattered so much in the relationship. It's not that she no longer loves her husband, it's that the game is over, and with it, the challenge that once kept her engaged. The very thing that made her so desirable initially, her elusiveness, her ability to create a sense of mystery, is gone. And without that sense of excitement, she starts to crave something new. Boredom begins to creep in, not because her husband has changed, but because the dynamic has changed. He is no longer the prize she is trying to win. He is the fixture in her life, the constant, the predictable. While this stability is precisely what she once sought, it now feels dull compared to the excitement of the unknown. She finds herself drawn to new experiences, to the idea of spontaneity, to anything that disrupts the monotony of daily married life. This is why many married women, even those in seemingly happy relationships, seek validation outside their marriage. Through attention from other men, social media, or even reckless behavior that makes them feel desired again. For a man, this shift can feel like betrayal. He worked hard to win her over, to prove himself as a worthy partner, only to realize that the rules of the game changed the moment he committed. He may wonder why she no longer looks at him as she once did, why the passion has faded, why she seems more interested in her phone or the attention of strangers than in him. He may try to regain her interest by being more attentive, doing more for her, and reminding her of all the reasons she fell for him in the first place. But often, these efforts only push her further away, because the issue isn't about what he is or isn't doing. It's about the fact that she no longer feels the need to try. A man who understands this shift does not react with desperation. He does not beg for her attention or try to force her to rekindle the passion they once had. Instead, he reclaims his sense of mystery, his sense of self. He stops being predictable. He stops being the husband who is always available and eager to please. He reinvents himself, not for her, but for himself. He becomes the man she first fell for, the one with his own life, ambitions, and purpose beyond the relationship. And in doing so, he reminds her of what she once found irresistible about him. Because a woman does not crave comfort, she craves excitement, and a man who understands this will never lose her interest. 2. The hidden desires of married women. A wedding ring is often seen as a symbol of commitment, a silent declaration that a woman is no longer available to the world of romantic possibilities. Yet for some women, that ring becomes a paradox, a reminder of stability and a catalyst for longing. While many assume that married women are immune to temptation, reality paints a different picture. Some are not merely receptive to outside attention, they actively seek it. Not because they are looking for a new relationship or because they have stopped loving their husbands, but because something within them craves an escape from predictability, from routine, from the slow erosion of excitement that marriage can bring. Over time, even the most passionate relationships settle into patterns. What was once thrilling becomes expected. The highs are no longer as high, and the lows are no longer as low. Stability is comforting but lacks the intensity of new attraction, the rush of uncertainty, and the electricity of the unknown. A woman who once felt desired, pursued, and admired is now immersed in responsibilities, children, schedules, and obligations. She is still loved, but love has taken on a different shape, one that is less about passion and more about partnership. And while that is not inherently bad, it does leave space for something else, a hunger for excitement, spontaneity, and the intoxicating feeling of being wanted not as a wife or a mother, but as a woman. Contrary to the assumption that men are always the initiators of extramarital affairs, studies show that many women take the first step. Some do it subtly, through lingering glances, playful teasing, or increased attention toward a particular man. Others are more direct, crossing boundaries without hesitation. In a survey, 60% of men admitted to having been involved with a married woman, and 40% said it was the woman who initiated the affair. This challenges the stereotype that men are the primary pursuers in these situations. Many married women do not seek affairs out of necessity, but out of desire. What makes an affair so appealing is the secrecy and the contrast it provides. A marriage is built on familiarity. An affair thrives on the unfamiliar. A husband is a known presence, predictable in his habits, affections, and flaws. A lover, on the other hand, is a mystery. He represents the untapped potential of what could be, rather than the reality of what already is. The thrill of sneaking glances across a room, of whispered words laced with hidden meaning, of the adrenaline rush that comes from doing something forbidden. All of these create a chemical cocktail that is difficult to resist. This does not mean that every married woman who flirts is on the path to infidelity. For some, it is simply a way to feel alive again, to reclaim a part of themselves buried under years of domestic life. For others, it is a test, a way to see if they still can attract, seduce, or be desired. However, for those who do take the next step, the appeal is rarely about replacing their husbands. It is about feeling something they thought was lost. The question is not why married women seek affairs, but what they are genuinely seeking within them. Is it passion, validation, escape? The answer varies from woman to woman, but the pattern remains the same. When the excitement of marriage fades, desire is replaced by duty, admiration turns into expectation, and the door to temptation opens. Not because love is absent, but because the thrill of possibility is too powerful to ignore. 3. The emotional gamble of involvement with a married woman. A man who enters an affair with a married woman often underestimates the emotional risks involved. What begins as an exhilarating escape from routine can become far more complicated. The thrill of secrecy, the intensity of stolen moments, and the intoxicating feeling of being desired create a powerful illusion that can trap a man before he even realizes it. Unlike casual encounters, an affair with a married woman carries a unique psychological pull. She is unavailable, yet within reach. She is committed elsewhere, yet giving a part of herself to him. This paradox creates an emotional high that can be hard to resist. But in the process, many men find themselves falling for a woman who was never looking to be caught. Men, by nature, often seek deeper meaning in their romantic pursuits. Even if they tell themselves it is just a physical connection, emotions can creep in. The more time they spend with her, the more they see her as a potential life partner. They imagine a future where she is entirely free from the constraints of her marriage. They believe that with enough time she may leave her husband. But this is where reality crashes into fantasy. Most married women engaging in affairs are not searching for another long-term partner. They are seeking a temporary escape. They want excitement without obligation and passion without consequences. Leaving their stable lives for an uncertain future with a lover is not only unlikely but often unthinkable. This emotional imbalance creates a dangerous power dynamic. Unlike single women, married women who engage in affairs have a built-in safety net. Their marriage provides financial security, emotional stability, and social acceptance. This allows them to take risks that single women may hesitate to take. While a single woman might be more selective in her relationships, a married woman engaging in an affair can approach it with a sense of detachment. She does not need a man to provide for her or offer her long-term commitment. She already has that at home. This gives her an unspoken advantage, a sense of control that many men fail to recognize. The affair often becomes an emotional investment for a man, but for her, it remains a controlled indulgence. He may find himself waiting for texts that never come, questioning her feelings when she suddenly pulls away, or struggling with jealousy over a husband he once dismissed as irrelevant. The deeper he falls, the more powerless he becomes. She, on the other hand, maintains her position of control. She decides when they meet, how often they talk, and how much of herself she shares. The moment the affair threatens to disrupt her real life, she can cut it off without hesitation. For her, it was always temporary. For him, it may have become something much more. The most painful realization comes when he understands he was never her priority. No matter how passionate the affair, no matter how many times she whispered about how unhappy she was in her marriage, she still goes home to another man. He becomes a secret she once kept, a memory that fades as she moves forward, and he is left to pick up the pieces of an illusion he once believed in. The lesson is clear. A man who allows himself to become emotionally entangled with a married woman is gambling with his peace of mind. He may think he is in control, but the reality is different. She has already calculated the risks. She knows how to walk away unscathed. The question is, does he? 4. The hidden patterns of infidelity and the unspoken justifications. Infidelity does not happen in a vacuum. It is rarely a spur-of-the-moment decision, nor is it always the result of a profound moral failing. It is often the byproduct of unmet emotional needs, unspoken resentments, or a growing dissatisfaction. A woman who steps outside her marriage is not always looking for someone better, but something different. The thrill of the unknown, the validation of feeling desired again, and the excitement of breaking free from routine are the driving forces that often push her toward an affair. When a woman feels neglected in her relationship and no longer experiences the emotional connection that once kept her invested, she may seek external sources of validation. It is not always intentional. Sometimes it starts with small, seemingly harmless interactions. A lingering glance, a playful conversation, an unexpected compliment from someone who makes her feel seen in a way she hasn't felt in years. If she and her husband have been arguing more, if she feels taken for granted, if the passion in their marriage has faded, the risk of infidelity increases. Social settings play a significant role in these situations. Girls' nights out, bars and parties, environments where alcohol lowers inhibitions and attention from other men provides a temporary escape from reality, are prime breeding grounds for infidelity. In these moments, she may feel a rush of excitement, a reminder of the carefree version of herself that existed before the responsibilities of marriage dulled her sense of adventure. The more often she places herself in these scenarios, the higher the probability that she crosses a line she never intended to cross one night. For some women, marriage was never about love but security. They chose their husband. He represented stability because he offered a future free of uncertainty. However, attraction and security do not always go hand in hand. If, over time, he becomes too accommodating, too eager to please, and too predictable, she may begin to see him as weak. She may not even realize it, but the very traits that made him a good provider now make him less appealing as a man. The paradox is cruel. The more a husband sacrifices to make his wife happy, the less she respects him. And without respect, attraction dies. A woman in this position may start seeking contrast. The man who once seemed exciting but too unpredictable for a long-term commitment now becomes alluring. The bad boy she once dismissed in favor of a stable provider suddenly holds a new appeal. He is dangerous. He does not seek her approval. He makes her feel alive. This contrast is what leads her into an affair. Not necessarily because she wants to leave her husband, but because she craves the intensity that her marriage no longer provides. Infidelity is rarely about love. It is about emotions, feeling desired, experiencing something new, and escaping the mundane. A woman does not wake up one day and decide to cheat. It happens gradually, often beginning long before any physical betrayal takes place. It starts in the mind, emotions, and subtle shifts in how she perceives her partner and herself within the relationship. And suppose a man does not recognize these signs. In that case, if he does not understand the unspoken language of attraction and respect, he may find himself blindsided by the realization that the woman he thought was he had, in her heart, already left long before the affair ever began. 5. The silent collapse of a marriage without respect. A woman who does not respect her husband does not feel bound by loyalty. Respect is not just an optional component of a relationship, but the foundation upon which trust, commitment, and long-term stability are built. When a woman loses respect for her husband, she begins to see him as weak, someone she can manipulate, and someone replaceable. It does not happen overnight. It is a slow erosion, a gradual shift where admiration turns into indifference, and indifference turns into contempt. A marriage without respect is like a house with a rotting foundation. On the surface, everything may seem fine, but internally, cracks are forming. And when enough pressure is applied, whether through an affair, financial trouble, or an explosive argument, the entire structure collapses. History has shown time and time again that men who ignore this fundamental truth pay the ultimate price. Politicians, celebrities, and business leaders who fail to maintain respect in their relationships have watched their personal and professional lives unravel. Scandals, divorces, and financial ruin stem from a single truth. A woman who does not respect her husband does not feel obligated to be faithful. Infidelity does not arise in a vacuum. It is often the final symptom of a deeper problem, a manifestation of a relationship that has been decaying long before the act of betrayal occurs. A woman may tolerate many things in a marriage, but cannot love a man she does not respect. Without respect, loyalty ceases to exist. And once that happens, she begins to seek emotional or physical fulfillment elsewhere. It may start as harmless flirtation, a seemingly innocent connection with someone who makes her feel something she no longer feels at home. However, as she views her husband with increasing disdain over time, the barriers that once protected the marriage crumble. Some men assume that marriage guarantees security, and that loyalty is a given once vows are exchanged. This is a dangerous misconception. Marriage does not create respect. It does not enforce loyalty. These things must be nurtured, reinforced, and maintained. A man who assumes his wife will stay simply because of a ring on her finger fails to understand human nature. Respect must be continuously earned. The moment a man allows himself to become passive, weak, or overly complacent in his relationship, he begins to lose the very thing that keeps a woman emotionally invested in him. A woman does not wake up one day and decide to betray her husband. It is a process. It begins with disappointment, unmet expectations, and a growing awareness that the man she once admired no longer inspires the same feelings in her. If these feelings go unaddressed, if resentment festers, then one day she may find herself looking elsewhere, not necessarily because she planned it, but because deep down she no longer feels bound by the relationship. The truth is harsh but undeniable. A woman who respects her husband does not cheat because she sees him as a man of value. She understands that he is not easily replaceable and that his presence in her life should not be taken for granted. But when that respect fades, when she starts viewing him as weak, as a man who has lost control over himself and his relationship, her commitment weakens. A weak foundation cannot withstand a storm, and a marriage without respect cannot endure life's inevitable challenges. Hoping that a broken relationship will fix itself is wishful thinking. The only way to restore respect in a marriage is for a man to reclaim his sense of self-worth and re-establish his presence as a leader in the relationship. He must demand respect, not through force or words, but through his actions, confidence, and unwavering sense of direction. A woman will never respect a man who does not respect himself, and without that respect, nothing else matters. 6. The illusion of the affair, a man's greatest mistake. A married woman does not seek an affair for love. She seeks it for escape. An escape from routine, predictability, and the parts of marriage that no longer excite her. The men she attracts often fear commitment themselves. Men who see her as a safe option because the boundaries are clear and the expectations are minimal. The emotional stakes appear to be low. He convinces himself that she understands him in ways no other woman does, that their connection is unique, and that what they share is different. He believes she is with him not out of convenience but desire, and that is the first illusion. In the beginning, the affair is intoxicating. The secrecy, the urgency, the stolen moments, everything feels heightened. He tells himself he is in control, knows what this is, and will not fall. But emotions are not bound by logic, and over time, something shifts. He starts craving more. He wants to see her outside of their usual hidden encounters. He wants her to choose him, to admit that what they have is accurate. But the moment he begins to want more, the dynamic collapses. Because she never intended to leave her husband. She never saw him as a future. He was a thrill, a temporary rebellion against the constraints of her life. The moment he asks for more, she pulls away. Men often idealize affairs, believing that they have unlocked something within a woman that her husband could not. They see themselves as her true love, the one she was meant to be with and who makes her feel alive again. But the reality is far simpler. She was never looking for a replacement, only a distraction. She does not want to start over, to face the consequences of tearing apart her family, to endure the judgment and the upheaval, and when forced to choose, she almost always stays. He may hold on to hope, thinking she will finally leave if he waits long enough. She will realize he is the better option if he proves his love, but time is not on his side. Time is the enemy. The longer the affair continues, the clearer it becomes that he is not her future. He is just a chapter in her story, one that will eventually close. And when it does, he is left with nothing. No commitment, no security, no closure. Just the realization that he was never the main character, only a fleeting subplot in a life that was never meant to include him. 7. The final truth about relationships and self-respect. Respect is either present from the start or absent forever. It cannot be negotiated, pleaded for, or slowly earned over time. If a woman does not respect a man from the beginning, nothing he does, no amount of patience, generosity, or devotion will ever change that. Marriage does not fix this. Commitment does not alter the foundation of a relationship. It only magnifies what is already there. If she had questioned his strength before, she would have tested it even more after. She would only feel more entitled with time if she had taken him for granted. A man who ignores this reality convinces himself that love can overwrite a lack of respect. It cannot. Love without respect is just prolonged resentment waiting to surface. Infidelity reveals a person's character more than their words ever will. Some cheat out of emotional weakness, seeking validation in moments of vulnerability. Others do it simply because they can, because it is a pattern they never intended to break. The reason matters less than the reality. Cheating is either a moment of weakness or a chosen lifestyle. A man who believes a woman will change after betraying his trust is fooling himself. If she genuinely respected him, she would have never risked losing him in the first place. The same applies in reverse. Trust is not something to be repaired. It is either intact or broken beyond recovery. Recognizing red flags early is not about being cynical, but about self-respect. A man who ignores warning signs and rationalizes toxic behavior in the name of love is setting himself up for manipulation. He becomes an easy target for emotional games, pushed and pulled in whatever direction benefits her most. Setting boundaries is not about control. It is about preventing self-destruction. A man who stands firm in his values and does not tolerate disrespect or disloyalty avoids entangling himself in relationships that drain him. Women may test boundaries, but they secretly admire men who enforce them. Strength is not measured by endurance in a bad situation, but by the willingness to walk away from one. Women too must reflect on what they truly want. If they are unhappy in a relationship, they must decide whether to work on it or leave. Seeking short-term excitement to escape deeper issues only leads to long-term consequences. It is easy to justify reckless decisions at the moment, but no action is without repercussions. Life is not a draft where mistakes can simply be erased. A choice made in a moment of weakness can echo for years. This applies to both men and women alike. In the end, relationships are built on choices. The choice to respect or disregard, the choice to be honest or deceitful, the choice to stay or to walk away. Those who make decisions based on temporary emotions often regret permanent consequences. Those who think beyond the moment and weigh their actions' impact avoid unnecessary suffering. A man who understands this does not chase, does not beg, and does not plead for love. He stands firm, knowing that the right woman will see his value without him proving it. And that is the kind of man who commands respect and devotion, not just for a moment, but for a lifetime. Conclusion. Marriage, at its core, reveals the true nature of those involved. It is not a magical contract that fosters loyalty, nor does it inherently prevent betrayal. Instead, it magnifies pre-existing traits, both strengths and flaws. When women no longer feel excitement in their marriage, some women seek validation and thrill outside their vows. Others remain faithful not because of obligation, but because they genuinely respect and cherish their partner. For men, understanding these dynamics is crucial. Ignoring the warning signs or believing that love alone will safeguard against infidelity is a dangerous illusion. Strength, self-respect, and setting firm boundaries protect a man from emotional entanglement in a situation where he is destined to lose. Likewise, women must take responsibility for their choices. If dissatisfaction exists, the real solution lies in honest reflection and decisive action, not deception and recklessness. The reality is simple. Every decision has consequences. Seeking short-term pleasure at the cost of long-term stability is a gamble few genuinely win. Clarity and integrity are the keys to building something meaningful, in marriage or relationships. What do you think? Have you witnessed or experienced similar situations? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening discussions.